good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We're going to get started in a minute's time. Lovely to see Palak. So obviously, hopefully that call was good for you. It's good afternoon. Great to see Brianne, Farid, Iraj, Lisa, Palak. So why don't we just in the chat box just tell me where you are in the world and what time it is. So I'm just going to go to everyone and just say, where are you in the world and what time it is? So I'm in the UK. It's 12:30, and just for good, the weather is sunny. So where are you in the world and what time it is? Just find the chat box. Let me know, where are you in the world and what time is it? So Bria, I thought that was an American name. So you're in Lakeland, Florida by Disney. You win the day, Brianne. Absolutely win the day with that, because I have to say I don't have Disney outside my window, but we do here in the UK have this very strange thing called sunshine and warmth. Lovely to see Nash. Lovely to see a couple of club members with us. Palak, of course, you're not too far down the road. So we've got a Raj here in the UK as well. Jack is in Hull. And Jack, are you loving the weather? Because I expect the Hull, from when this brief bit of time I lived up north in the UK, was pretty damn cold and wet and fairly miserable. So, you got up early for this, Brianne. 7:30. Of course you would have done. Mutaila is in Ghana, which is lovely. In fact, one of our members is working out of Ghana at the moment because he needed to do some meetings out there. You know, if that isn't kind of winning the day with the, hey, you know, my workcation in Corsica was nothing to do with that. Right. Great that we can see. So lots of people have discovered the chat box. The great news for you is, ask me any questions. Let me know what you want to need. I just need to work out how to turn off that beep, which I'm sure I will work out at some point. Let's get started. So those of you some of you have met me. I am Heather Townsend. Before people really knew me as excellent at helping growing small accountancy firms through the Accountants Growth Club, our new name for the Accountants Millionaires Club, I was kind of better known as the author of the Financial Times Guide to Business Networking, the author of the Go-To Expert. Actually, let's be honest, there's not much really in the last number of years that I haven't learnt, either through helping others or learnt the hard way about winning business. So, question for you. Why is it so hard to put your marketing on autopilot? And let's be honest, why is it so hard to do that? Well, first off, and this is always what I see, that there's too much client work. So you don't have time to think, so you don't get the time to do this. You know, I work with lots of people that have come in and suddenly found that they need to win business, either through helping accountants grow their practice or through the how to make partner work I do. And nobody teaches you this stuff, do they? And suddenly you're expected to know how to do it and how your staff can do it. But imagine if you can relate to this, that your staff see it as your role, you're the boss to win work. But also they give away stuff to clients which should be charged for. But, you know, all of this just leads to these problems. But also, you know, particularly if we do it ourselves, Yasmin, I'm just going to promote you to a panelist. So you're up there. Particularly if we do it ourselves, often the quality of leads we get through Facebook ads, pay-per-click or outsourcing can be very poor. And actually, as well as that, it's not just that. The leads can be quite poor. And even if we get somebody who supposedly knows what they're doing, once again, the leads can be very poor with this. So I want to ask you, what's stopping you from putting your marketing on autopilot? So let's just go and stick up a poll. Let's just launch this poll. What's stopping you from putting your marketing on autopilot? So I've also got Yasmin in my team, who is one of our business development experts as well. What's stopping you? There should be something on the screen now. This is where nobody's answered it. So if you can't, oh, brilliant. I always like seeing people answering the polls. That way I know. Let's see what's happening. So we've got the answers coming through fast and furious. And interestingly, a lot of people are saying, I don't know how to do this. Don't know how to do this seems to be the big one. We've got another 4 people that are either ignoring me or have got other things to do. Let's go and get those. Let's see if we can get those last 4 people to put up their answers. Last 3. Come on, I can be pretty persuasive, or as some of our members say, be pretty blunt. Let's give 3, 2, 1. Yay, we've got 1 more. Let's just go and end that poll and let's share the results. What are people saying? The biggest thing people are saying is, I don't know how to do this. I don't have time to consider how to do this. And then I can't get my staff to do it. You know, these seem to be the issues that are happening. So let's stop sharing that. Let's just move it on. So let's also have another poll. What is the benefit to you of getting this right? So let's go back to, I want to get to my polls. The benefit of getting it right. Let's just launch this. If you could get this stuff, if you get your marketing on autopilot, what would be the benefit to you? See what people think. Hello, Lenny. Lenny is one of my contacts from Singapore, so it's lovely to have you with us. Hello, Lenny. Great to have you. See if there's anybody else I know while I'm waiting for the poll results. We've got another club member. Hello, Graham. In fact, I think Graham is our newest club member. So great to have you with us, Graham. If not the newest, Graham, you're within the last 2 members. Lovely to have you with us, Graham. And you may not, well, you can see there's a wave coming to you in sunny Manchester, not something I say normally, sunny Manchester. And lovely to have somebody from Singapore with us. Right, let's go and see whether we're going to get the last couple of people. Come on, let's answer that question. What's the benefit to you? What's it actually going to do? Let's see if I can get 1 or 2 more people. Oh, I've got 1, Yasmin. They're working with me. They're definitely working with me. Let's go 3, 2 seconds, 1 second, half a second. All right, let's end that poll. And let's just share the results. So interestingly, there's 2 clear standout things. If I could put my marketing on autopilot, I'd accelerate the growth of my practice. The next thing is it would increase the profitability of my practice. And you know what? For most of us, we believe that this panacea, that if I can put my marketing on autopilot, new business just comes through the door. I can then focus on servicing the client, building the operation, making it happen. And you know what? Of course you can get to that point, but it's probably not as easy to get there as you think. It probably takes more thinking to get there. So let's just get rid of that poll. So what are we going to cover in this webinar? I'm going to actually help you how to get your team to step up and help you with business development, because actually this is often the secret to releasing it from your responsibility and get it to start to really happen. I'm also going to look at how do you actually get to turn on that flood of new business, this thing that we all want, this flood of new business from existing clients, but it comes from existing clients. But the most important, without you being a salesperson, we're also going to look at what can be safely outsourced, maybe how to replace that membership of your networking group, but also how to stop your team doing work for free that should be chargeable. Let's look at the agenda for this session. So we're going to look at, firstly, what stops us from doing this. Then we're going to look at the importance of great client service. Then we're going to look at how to switch on your marketing to your current clients. Then we're going to look at how to put in place processes to identify where there is more work to be won. Then we're going to look at what stops us that's strange. How to put in place, how to get your staff to step up, and what marketing can you easily outsource. So let's look at what stops us. Quickly in the chat box, what's stopping you? Just into the chat box. What's stopping you? Why is it now when I'm running a webinar that my neighbours and his small child want to kick a ball around? Just in the chat box, what's stopping you? Graham says finding the time. And you know, we talked about that, didn't we, on the Daily Power Up, Graham? Literally, that wasn't the Daily Power Up, it was the members' morning this week. We actually talked about how do you find the time? What is at the time? Interestingly, we've got Dominic saying knowing what to do, but a lot of people saying the time. So, and interestingly, and Nash has said changing needs and content, but I know your boss, Nash, so there's always going to be changing needs going on there. So firstly, let's have that dose of realism. If your accounting practice is between 50 grand and $500,000. So for you, Brianna, say $80,000 to about $800,000 type stuff. There's always going to be large pressures on your firm's cash flow and your time. In fact, we saw that when we looked through it. A lot of people saying it's my time is the problem. After all, you've probably got to the point where you have to reduce the amount of client work you do personally and start to bring in a team to support you if you're going to grow, because you just run out of time. So this means you've got a choice with the marketing for your firm. Either outsource it or get your team to contribute or do your marketing yourself. Either way, it's going to take an investment in cash or your time. And both of which, if you're a growing practice, are generally in short supply. And just put in yes in the chat box if you can relate to this. And yes, you'd love your team to help you, but maybe they're just too junior to help you right now with business development. And they're probably part of the reason you don't have the time. Just put yes in the chat box if you can really relate to that. You'd love your team to step up and do this stuff, but they're just too junior right now. Yeah, Brianne said yes, absolutely. Chris has said yes. Graham has said yes. And I know, Graham, you are about to get that team in place. Lisa Matala, absolutely. And this thing is, we brought in these junior members of staff because they're cheap and we can afford them. But they can't take this business development stuff off us. They can't take a lot of the client stuff off us. So what are we going to do about that? So let's look at where we're often going wrong. And Yasmin can probably concur with this, having spoken with a lot of members and working with a lot of members now on business development, is we're often not focused enough on who we really want as a client. If you're still kind of going, I want small businesses or I want growing businesses, the reality is you're probably not focused enough. And I'm thinking about one of our members, and he said to me, and Yasmin knows this member. Yasmin knows this member very well. He's one of my favorite members. He's one of our Mancunian members, so that might help you, Yasmin. He said to me, Heather, I don't get this niching thing. I just want to work with small businesses. I don't need this. And I'm like, yeah. And then he turned around to me a bit later and he said, Heather, I'm not actually getting as much work of the right work I want. You know, can you help me? And I said, yeah. I said, who do you really want as a client? And he said, oh, that's easy. I want small businesses that want to rely on me and pay me good money. And I'm like, yeah, but don't we all want this? We've got to be a lot more focused. So we then narrowed it down. And he said, well, actually, I want businesses in the Northwest that want to be on QuickBooks who make and move stuff. So literally all we did was on his website, put a big header, this is who we work with, businesses in the Northwest who make and move stuff. Then the other thing we did was we put on his QuickBooks QuickBooks profile. We just altered it slightly to say, we work with businesses who make and move stuff in the Northwest. So this is his QuickBooks advisory profile. 4 weeks later, he rang me up and he said, Heather, I think you might be onto something. I said, me? I don't like being right. Honestly, I don't. He said, I've just had 2 people ring me up. They looked at my LinkedIn profile. He said, which you wrote, which says we work with people that make and move stuff. They looked at our website. They looked at our QuickBooks directory stuff and said, you're exactly the kind of client we want. He said, I've just signed up our 2 biggest clients and it was easy. And this is the reality. If we're trying to go for everyone, it makes it a lot harder to get efficiency from our marketing, which means that it makes it a lot harder to put this stuff on autopilot. The next thing is our marketing messages are too bland. It all depends on where your audience is. So we've got one of our club members that often works with people that it's their first business, they're just coming up to the VAT threshold, or they've just, they're fairly new in their business journey. And yes, they need stuff like, should I be a sole trader? Should I be limited business? When do I have to start paying VAT? Of course they need that stuff. But normally when I see this stuff written, it's boring, really boring. So let me just give you one of our members. And this member had previously played it very safe. We're a chartered accountancy firm. We work with small businesses growing in this area, the typical corporate copy that we often see there and go, this is so boring. Anyway, so we really encourage them to put their personality into their copy on their website. And they're a firm with a lot of quirky character. They're always, it's all about the tea and biscuits for them in their firm, all about the tea and biscuits for them. And so we wrote with Becky, our copywriter on our team, and we also redid their website for them. through our trusted partner, and we put personality into their copy, and they really turn up as themselves now. And they talk about tea, and they talk about, you know, biscuits, and they talk about going with their camper van. And I said to them, I said, and so we probably did their website about a year ago. I said, right, do you get people coming as a result of this personality? She said, well, I don't think we get people coming as a result. I'm like, okay. She goes, but they tend, the clients that convert tend to mention they love something about our personality, like they're either a tea person, or they love their pets too, or they have a dog like mine, or they have a cat like you know, one of the other people's. And I said, so what you're saying to me is the ones that come on board as a client have normally come in through that personality on, and they go, yes. So I go, is it working? Yes. It really, really matters. You know, strip away that corporate feel. This is one of my pet hates. There are lots of people out there that will sell you a content library, and they give you this ready-made vault of content. In fact, if you join the Accountants Grow Club, there's over 150 white labeled articles that you can pick and make your own and send out to clients. You can split them up and put them into social media stuff. It's all of that stuff. And we're going to work on, you know, we give all of our members a new article every single week that they can use, every single week. But we always say to them, personalize it, because everything I've seen that comes from these big content libraries, you know, whether it's the Practice Web stuff, whether it's the Mercia stuff, whether it's the whatever stuff, the Content Lounge, it says boring as ditch water. It's very generic, so it suits everybody, so you don't offend everybody. The reality is, if you want your marketing to work, you're going to have to actually stir the pot, as Yasmin would tell you. Stir the pot, break a few eggs, discourage a few people to attract the right people through to you. If we don't personalize what we get from these content libraries, the following happens. We don't get the emotional engagement, as messages are too generic. And if you want your marketing to work, you've got to get that emotional engagement. So if you're going to put it on autopilot, there's got to be that emotional engagement. And what happens is we just kind of cut, paste, post from these content libraries, instead of kind of going, actually, how do I make this right for my audience? We just contribute to the noise on social media. We don't get lovely SEO juice from this stuff. We're kind of buying into this hope that if we buy into this content library, all of our content marketing woes are going to be solved. It doesn't work that way. The next thing is, I see this a lot. We rely too much on a hope and strategy. Right, I'm going to update my website. And with a new updated website, that's suddenly going to open the doors to lots of leads coming through. Ta-da! Job done. Doesn't work like that. Because there's a couple of things. One, it's not just about the website. It's one, is the website focused on your audience? Does it differentiate you? Does it demonstrate why people come to you? Does it show how you add value to your audience? And, you know, by focusing on too big an audience, we don't get any of this stuff. So our marketing messages don't land. So it doesn't matter whether we put them on autopilot or otherwise, it really doesn't land. So the next thing is, it's all very well doing this brand spanking new shiny website, but if nobody lands on it, nobody's going to read it. It doesn't make a blind bit of difference. So the key thing is here is we've got to do stuff, and hope is not a strategy. And I see this a lot. So I had 2 members come to me and said, hello, we're going to put our marketing on autopilot. We're in the money, pay-per-click, let's make it work. And it didn't work. And I said, you know, with these agencies, do they have a specialist pay-per-click person? Oh, no, but they tell us they can do it and they get good results. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, are they using dedicated landing pages? Well, I don't know. But they promise us we can deliver. You know what, these 2 members, they switched it up within 3-4 months because it was done badly. You know, and you know, something like pay-per-click is great if you want local businesses. If you're wanting sector-based businesses, there just is not enough search traffic to justify a pay-per-click campaign. And I'm telling you that because we work with a very specialist search person, and we know that search works far, far better when you're really focused on looking at location-based search. It's a bit of a tip for you all there. You know, often the reason why these programs, they're either sold to us and we just go, oh, hope they can solve all our problems. Or we, as the accountancy firm, are not clear on the basics, i.e. what is our brand? And when I talk about the brand, you're thinking, oh, marketing jargon. What am I meaning by the brand? What's our ideal client? What's that promise to that ideal client? What's our reputation? What do we stand for? That's what I mean by the brand. So quickly into the chat box, what's one thing that's really resonated with you so far? Into the chat box, one thing that's really resonated with you so far. Yep, Kelvin, focus on that ideal client. Yeah, because if you don't do that, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in, how much personal, how much stuff, it's just not going to land. It really is not going to land. Nash, personalizing content. Nash, you've heard me say this to you a lot, but good to see that it's been a reminder. Dominic, yeah, personalized focus. If you're going to get this marketing working and not just on autopilot, it needs to be personalized. It needs to be focused. Yasmin will tell you, she was actually doing the marketing for the Accountants Growth Club and our sister company, the Accountants Recruiter. And we kind of said, Yasmin, come client side, you really want to do it. And she said no. And then she said yes. But she will tell you that her job is made much, much easier by the fact we're really focused on, in the club, we work with small accountancy firms, maximum 2 decision makers that are wanting to grow, and typically between 50 grand and $1.5 million. We've got some that are getting towards 2 million, but that is who we work with. Absolutely. Brianne's thinking, oh, there's lots of marketing options out there. Who's my ideal client? Chris is thinking about identifying the ideal clients. Graham's thinking about working with specific sectors. Tyler's wanted to focus on the ideal client. This all starts from focusing on that ideal client. Everything that Yasmin and myself and also Dan will tell you in the group about winning new business starts with, what is my ideal client? And it's got to be far, far more specific than a small growing business. So the next thing is, you might be thinking that business development means going out to win business. Well, actually, the best channel for most of our members to market is using great client service to get referrals. In fact, one of the things I often ask is new members is how many client referrals they typically can rely on each month. If they're like, well, virtually none, and they have more than 30 clients, I will then say to them, you've got a client service issue. The easiest way to get more good clients via autopilot is by delivering excellent client service to your existing clients. I know this doesn't sound very sexy. I know this sounds a little bit like, you what? Actually, that is the easiest. But the problem is we don't put enough management time and focus because we believe that we just believe that this stuff happens and we can't influence it. That if we're going to get the referral, we're going to get the referral. But the reality is, this is your best route to market. So why are we not exploiting it? Why are we not putting lots of management time on making sure that we really deliver for existing clients? Because if we did, we'd be doing some or all of the following things. First off, we'd be measuring how many client referrals that we get each month and from whom. And if you find that you have a core number of clients who regularly refer you, you would put these clients onto special measures to ensure they're always feeling the support of your firm. But how many of us do that? We don't do that. The thing you would also be measuring a client satisfaction score. By the way, client satisfaction scores, when measured, are brilliant for award entries. As a judge, I'm always looking for that sort of thing. But you'd have a client satisfaction score. It could be as simple as a Google form for clients to fill in after your firm has completed, say, a big job like the year-end accounts. But the essential question to add to the form or the client satisfaction survey is, how likely are you to recommend us? If they score 7 or less out of 10, then you need to follow up with them to find out what the firm does to score more. The next thing you'd be doing is you'd be measuring the time it takes to complete a set of year-end accounts, VAT returns, and personal tax returns. I know there's a couple of people that are non-UK based, so my apologies for talking about UK stuff here. We always recommend that firms aim to have a set of year-end accounts ready to file within 3 months of client's year-end, not to file, because often a client says, oh, I just need to delay a bit, but to ready to file. And why do we say that? Because if you've got this turnaround time is being achieved, it means your firm's operation is running with enough capacity and slickly. It means that you've got time to think about stuff. You've got time to call clients. You've got time to give this client service. And very often, as soon as you get busy, you get this backlog and it takes a lot longer to turn around stuff. It's the same with VAT returns. But ideally, we want to be them ready to file within 21 days of the VAT quarter end. After all, if you can file within 3 weeks, it means that your bookkeeping team is working really effectively with their client base. The other thing you'd be doing is you'd have a weekly operational meeting with your team that would have an agenda report on how to improve the firm's client service, or a system or a process to make sure the operation is working. And, some of our best and client members that are growing the quickest will have this culture that everyone in that meeting is expected to come up with one idea to do things better. But, you know, this is the reality, is if we really focused on making sure that, you know, our biggest priority with our business development was about delivering great client service, you'll be surprised how quickly that would get client referrals. So how do you switch on marketing to your current clients? Because it's all very well, but how do we actually do it? And this is often the biggest gap I see in your market. You know, as I said, I've already said, there's a belief that client referrals will happen regardless of what the firm does or doesn't do. So let's just look at how a referral actually happens. People do not wake up in the morning and go, it's Thursday, time for a new accountant. You don't do that. That just doesn't happen. So there is always an opportunity. There is always something that happens. And, you know, knowing what that something is means that it's a lot easier for you to talk to your referral sources and say, if you hear about somebody complaining that they can't get in touch with their accountant, or their accountant's taking a long time to file their accounts, that's an opportunity to go. If you hear them say that, why don't you give them an introduction? The next thing is visibility. How do I remain top of mind? How is it that I'm there at the top of the mind of my clients? Now, if you'll say your operation is you're running at overcapacity, you're not going to have time for that visibility. And I'm going to talk about ways that our members get that visibility. Credibility. This is, are you credible for what you do? Interesting, I just saw a tax consultant on LinkedIn take a picture from a book for entrepreneurs that says, do not work with accountants on your forecast. And she was going, And she was basically saying there's a lot of accountants out there that are doing these forecasts for these startup businesses that want investment, and they don't know what they're doing. They make a hash of it, and they actually damage the chances. And this is what the book was saying. And she's saying, can't be right. And, you know, I said, it depends. You know, there are some great accountants out there that can do that. There are some accountants that you wouldn't put anywhere near a forward projection. And this is about your credibility. If you're focused on what you're good at and you're emphasizing that credibility, this is going to help you generate referrals. You know, both Yasmin and I, and also Dan, we're regularly asked by our networks, oh, you work with accountants, who do you recommend? And we're always thinking about who's a good chemistry match, who's also a good match in their expertise for what they do. In fact, I've sent 2 referrals in the last 2 weeks out to members, but it was because I knew what they were good at and knew what they wanted to do. And the final thing is, have you built some goodwill? So I just want to tell you a little bit about one of our members. So they managed to switch on work from new clients. Sorry, not new clients. They managed to switch on. In fact, they complain at me now as the work keeps rolling in, Heather, the work keeps rolling in. And in the summer of 2020, one of our members got in touch with me. Their client referrals and extra work from existing clients had dried up to nothing. Now, they knew there wasn't a problem with their client service. However, they wanted to get their lead generation going again. So we looked at what they were doing, and what we realized was he was doing little or no contact with clients outside of the normal day-to-day affairs. So what we did was instigate a plan to generate more business from existing clients. So what did this look like? This looked like regular phone calls to check in with their A clients, or clients most likely to refer them. A fortnightly useful newsletter now gets sent to existing clients with content tailored to their requirements. You know, not generic, here's a new tax update stuff, not content from a generic content feed for accountants to pass off as their own. It was very much them, their personality, with one short video, which was translated into a blog post around the tip they were sharing. And then they also very proactively did phone calls to clients who needed a different service level. Either they needed support with their bookkeeping, or they needed to take extra services. As a result of the work we did, this member found that they now generate on average 5 to 10K of new work each month from existing clients. They keep putting up their prices, still the work rolls in. They decide they didn't want to take any new clients, and that just still the work rolls in. So much so that this member has stopped his social media marketing as he gets all the work he needs from current clients. And this just goes to show the power of staying in touch with your current client base. Given that most of this extra contact time can be outsourced to others in the team or external marketing help, this is something your practice can implement to put your marketing on autopilot. And as Yasmin will tell you, we run a 4-month new business accelerator program. We run it twice a year for our members. And this is where you get weekly accountability. And typically when members are on this program, they generate between 20 to 100 grand of new business. And one of the cornerstones of this program, in fact, some of our members have done it every single time. We've run it 4 times now. And some of our members have done it 4 times because they just get more work from it every single time. And so interestingly, how do people get work from that? Well, we tell people to focus on winning more work from existing clients. So this really helps. Some of the tips we're sharing with you on this webinar have come directly from our members on that program. And so one of our members has really focused in on how do I get more from existing clients? So they've actually put in a workflow for when are there opportunities for more work. So they literally have codified that into their practice management system. They put in place a meeting at month 9 to 11 of the client's financial year to basically quote for the next year, but also find out their business and find out where they can help. They have codified into Carbon, their practice management system. As an aside, our members get 10% off Carbon if they're new to Carbon, so that their team members know when services are chargeable. And this is why every time they go on the program, as they run it, they generate 50 to 100K of new business each time they're on the program. But there is something else that's really important about that program. A lot of us have said, I don't have time for this. One of the things that program gives members is that weekly accountability. And that is why some of our members, they know all the content now backwards, but they come on it every single time because of that weekly accountability, because they love putting on a spreadsheet, where have I won work? And they find that when they come off the program without that accountability, they stop doing the work. So they come straight back on the next time we run it. And interesting, one of our founder members, Paul Miller, who runs, he puts in place processes to identify when clients need more from his firm. And he's now got his leadership team to be able to run some of those processes. So he's getting that onto autopilot. So whenever he runs a client seminar, he comes away with at least 2/3 of the attendees spending more money with his firm. This is either for business planning, business coaching, or bookkeeping service. You know, when he sells that business planning service, his clients then normally take him up on his offer of regular coaching. Now he has a process to fill the seminar. He doesn't want many people, so it's typically for under 8 clients, but he invites clients when he does a quarterly or annual meeting with them. And he goes, I think you need this stuff that I'm doing next month, and he books them on. And if he doesn't get enough from this, he will pick up the phone and call clients who he thinks may benefit. He also uses those annual and quarterly review meetings with clients to spot opportunities for tax planning and other services such as bookkeeping, which the clients may require. And what you can learn from Paul is he's implemented processes for generating more work from existing clients for almost no extra marketing effort. The actual mechanics of running the event can be run by his admin team. You know, this is marketing on autopilot. Now, you might not want to run events for clients, but you can definitely put in place that annual review meeting, and you can make this stuff happen. So here are some of these things, you know, that a lot of us go, but I'm sending a tax update every month. Isn't that enough? You know what? Those are normally not tailored, really boring to read. Clients actually don't really want them. Have you actually asked them whether they want them? And one of the things you might find is that your client-facing team may be reluctant to charge clients for doing work that is out of scope with their package of service they paid for. You know, our members have found that these are some of the ideas of how to help your team members actually charge for these things. So codify into your practice management system where there's actually a task that they need to tick off to gain agreement that the extra fee is from the client. Then there's actually a task at the end that says, we have billed this. Another thing that some of our members do is they have a rate card, they print it out, they send it to new clients, they give it to clients at the year-end review, they give it to team members to see what the fee for these extra ad hoc pieces of work should be. You know, some members have this target for this extra ad hoc work, or as some people in the profession know as EWO, extra work orders. So into the chat box while I take a drink, what's one thing that's resonated with you from the first half of this webinar? Into the chat box, what's one thing that's resonated with you from the first half of this webinar? Yeah, marketing existing clients to increase the revenue. Absolutely. And Dominic has said, yes, Dominic, you can't rely on hope. You have to get active on marketing. You know, how do you know what you can put on autopilot until you know what works? And for that, you've got to get some stuff wrong. You've got to try some stuff. You've got to measure and monitor. And Nash, I know you do that really well in your 2 businesses that you work for, you know, using current clients to get referrals. And marketing to existing clients and monthly health checks. These are amazing, Brian, that getting these monthly health checks, because they're an excuse to ring up the client and go, we've just been looking at your Xero or your QuickBooks, and we've noticed this. Are you aware of this? Is this something we can help with? It's a great way of a lead generation. And Graham, absolutely. Dan and Yasmin in the team can really help you get active in your marketing. Also, Graham, if you haven't been to it, you've got the Content Creator Camp for Grow and Boost members in the club, where the lovely Yasmin runs it. In fact, I was speaking to one of the members earlier today. He said, I'm really excited. Yasmin's going to show us how to make Instagram reels using Canva. You know, it's a really practical, hands-on type session. And I know Yasmin very much, you know, tweaks it to what people want there on the day. But yeah, it's, and Christy, that delivering that extra clients, that excellent client service, but it's not, all of us go, but I deliver great client service, but do you really put management time to know you're delivering? Hey, great, Graham, that you were in that content creator club. So this is all about some of the basics, but let's look at how do we get the staff to step up and do this? Because let's be honest, often the last responsibility when you're growing your firm that you're left with is business development. You know, a case in point, as Yasmin will tell you, I'm starting to step away from some of this sort of delivering this sort of content, but I'm not there yet. Plus, I quite enjoy it. And so somebody's going to have to really hit me with a sledgehammer to stop me doing this. But if you're going to get to your practice to a point where it can truly run without you, you need somebody else to do business development for you. But let's just be really honest. Most employees in small accounting firms were not hired for their business development skills and knowledge. They were hired because they were a good accountant, bookkeeper, administrator. Therefore, business development is unlikely to willingly be at the top of their priority list. Now, we do a lot of work with the other half of our business, our other brand, How to Make Partner. And in there, we have a population of senior associates, directors, and senior managers from mid-tier to large firms who know that if they're going to make partner, they'll need to get involved in business development. So they know they need to do it. Does this make a difference for them? Sometimes. But the reality, even with this population that knows why they need to do it, knows why it's good for their career, they will nearly always prioritize client work over business development. You know, you have to remember again, I'll say that again, this is a highly motivated population of people who know that their career progression hinges on being able to win their own work. They know how people talk about rainmakers. They know how much easier their life would be if they're a rainmaker, but they don't prioritize it. And it's the same even with your small accountancy firm. Your team generally do not equate career progression with business development. And so you've got to be realistic. And we often think, it's great, I brought this youngster in, they can help me with this. But over a number of years, you've got to remember you've crafted a profile and reputation for what you do. Prospects gravitate towards you because of your perceived credibility and reputation. You know, it's unrealistic to expect your team to be able to suddenly replicate your expertise in business development. You know, being able to win work with little or no external market value is really tough. You know, remember the early days, you know, when you were fresh into running your own practice. You know, how much time did you spend on business development for little or no reward? And you were able to bring in those first 10, 20, 30, 40 clients because that was your day job. But remember, your team don't have that luxury of lots of free time for business development. In their view, they're probably maxed out with client work. So unlike your early days of being an accountancy firm owner, your team still need to put food on the table, regardless of how involved they get in business development. They're just not as motivated to do it. And another thing to be realistic about is being able to spot opportunities for more work and then actually secure it takes time, patience, and skill. And guess what your team don't really have for this is the time, the motivation, or the skill. Oh, we've got a triple win there. So unless you fix these three things, your team is always going to have something more pressing to do than business development. So in our work with unnatural business developers or people new to business development, there's often prevailing mindsets that stop people from wanting to get involved with marketing or selling. In fact, Yasmin is proving to be one of our top people for getting current clients to need more from the club and also getting new members into the club. But I think it's fair to say, Yasmin will put in the chat box, and she said, this is not what I'm good at. And so one of the things that we talked about was changing the words. Because if you think most people don't go into accountancy to be seen as a salesperson, don't want to identify as a salesperson, don't want to be thought of as pushy, they fear rejection, a client or prospect saying no. They don't like blowing their own trumpet, or as they see it, showing off on social media. Obviously, I have no shame and do it every single day, but, and they see themselves as good with numbers rather than the apparent creativeness needed to be good at business development. And you know what? The best business developers I know are focused on who they want as a client and follow a process, day in, week in, month in. That's all they do. So, and often you see this, and a lot of you will go, business development is often thought of as dark art. They see it as something which you are born with rather than what you can learn. In fact, a former member of our team used to refer to me as a rainmaker, because they would just see that I would effortlessly have a phone call conversation, and I go, I'll just pick one a new piece of client work. Oh yeah, they want to come up a membership level. Yeah, they want to have this website through us. And she was like, wow, you're amazing. And Yasmin, this is the conversation we had, wasn't it? It's not about selling. It's about encouraging people to buy or invest in support for their business. And then it becomes a conversation. And what this former member of my team hadn't seen was it's a bit more than 11 years now. It's 13 years. Whoa, that makes me feel old. Of continually building my profile, expertise, and reputation. As Yasmin will know, when she used to manage the social media for the Accountants Growth Club, she could count on at least 50% of my posts to repackage for the rest of the social media for the Accountants Growth Club, because I was that prolific of what I do and how I do it. That's 13 years of, should we say, being good at talking. And so why do these fee earners deprioritize business development? Well, when you look at it, business development is an investment for the long term. And very often with our team, they have pressing short-term priorities to deal with. And you already go, oh, that's why they don't do it. But maybe they don't know where to start, so they don't start at all. Maybe they're not measured on business development results, so they only focused on what they're measured. So chargeable time targets, number of sets of accounts out the door, number of personal tax returns done. Maybe they don't have a personal business development plan, so they just don't focus their business development efforts. When I work with my How to Make Partner audience, a lot of people know what they want to do, but it never gets out of here into what am I going to do and then actions to do it. So it just becomes kind of an intention, a wish, and we need to get it into what we're actually going to do. So as a result, this means they get limited return on their time investment in business development. This then demotivates them from doing more business development, because why do more of something that ain't working? And there's normally not a straight line from a business development activity to winning work. So as a result, it's difficult to decide what business activities to do, so they don't do any. That's the reality. So we've got to change the words around business development. And as Yasmin and I had this conversation, you're helping them buy. You're encouraging them to invest in more support for their business. What you're not doing is selling. So when I used to work for BDO, which was a number of years ago, for those of you that are in the UK, BDO was at the time a top 5. It then dropped to a top 6 practice. It's now really seen as a almost Big 4 light. So they had this long running campaign to educate employees on how work was actually won. So every month, the managing partner would send an email highlighting new work wins, and then would do the backstory behind each win. And it would actually really show to people how a new piece of work was actually won. It showed them how that marketing and sales funnel and activities all fit together. Now, your firm may not be a BDO, but use your weekly operational meeting to demonstrate to your team how the firm wins works. Show them your growth and marketing plans. Now, if you don't have a growth plan or a marketing plan, you know where we are. That's the first thing we do with members, is help them kind of focus, what am I wanting to do? Show them how their role contributes to your firm winning work. Explain how this is, and it makes a massive amount of difference. But it's important to set that expectation that everyone has a role in business development. So in I think it's about 25 job descriptions that are sitting in the membership library for our members, we literally break each job description up into the key processes in any firm, which is create it, how to generate a lead, convert it, how to make that lead signed up client, deliver it, how do we deliver the work, get paid for it, how are we going to get paid for the work, and then how are we going to cultivate it? So how are we then going to expand it beyond that client? And we actually, for each job description, have, those, you'd see the three of them that create it, convert it, cultivate it. You'll see them as those kind of business development, so marketing, sales, account management. And so you can actually really break it down and give people individual objectives and responsibilities within those three core processes. But also have KPIs for the firm and individuals that show how they're helping with business development. As Yasmin will tell you, every week we sit down as a team within the club and go, this is the business development activity that we've had, so we know what's going on. Also consider offering a small bonus for team members who refer working to the firm. But also quantify the amount of time you expect them to spend on business development each week. For example, I expect you to spend 10 minutes on LinkedIn each day. If we don't do that and we leave it up to, well, you decide, it's not going to happen. We have to be very directional. Right, while I take a pause and a little sip, just put into the chat box, what's really resonated with you so far? What's really resonated with you so far? So Chris is asking, LinkedIn from a personal business perspective. I always say to people, just get posting, really get posting. Once you've got posting, then it's up to you whether the team member, if they're interested in then contributing to the effort for the firm. And that's always a conversation with them. We'd love you to be using LinkedIn. Here is how you can help us as a firm to do that. What else is resonating with people? Yeah. And Nash, your team is really you working together now. I could see across your firm tag teaming crossly, and it's great to see that you've got 3 meetings booked in from LinkedIn using the team to help you do that. Absolutely, Dominic, leverage that team, but they need help, and I'm going to show you coming up how to do that. Yeah, and ask Lisa, getting everybody involved in business development. Remember, you don't have to do it all, but we've got to show how work is won. It's not a dark art. You don't suddenly go into a room and everybody goes, be my accountant, please. It doesn't work that way. Absolutely. So how do you develop your teams in business development? Well, start small. Absolutely. Make it easy and start small. So, here are some tips for some great ones to start small with. Just get them to always say this question when they finish a conversation with the client. Is there anything else we can help you with today? Palak will recommend, remember that one? That's come straight from her firm. It really does work. Get your team to like, comment, and share on your social media posts and the firm's social media posts. They may not want to put anything on LinkedIn, but they may be happy to like the firm's post. They may be happy to comment on the firm's post. Make it as easy for them to do that. I know one of our members actually pays for a content writer to write some LinkedIn updates for a key member of their firm, so it happens. Get your team, and it's Becky within our team that writes that for them. Get your team to like, comment, and share on your social media posts. Get them to connect with their clients on LinkedIn. Get them to keep the firm's CRM updated with people they meet and client notes. Get them to participate in your firm's webinars, events, or surgery sessions. It doesn't need to be big stuff, just like Yasmin is here. And in time, she will be delivering some of this content going forward. But at the moment, she's here. And that's good. Start small. Yeah, I'm glad to see, Ali, that the working on your own, nurturing contacts resonates. Do you know a good planner? Do you know a good painter? Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that you can often get your team members to do is start to record answers to client queries by recording a screen share. You can then use often those screen shares, as long as there's no, personal data, to then start to put that as a bit of a video and use within your firm's marketing. But you've got to make it a priority. Now, in the early days, you might find that you've got to gently poke them with a very sharp stick to do these small steps. So you've got to become this, what I would call this broken record. So in your daily operational huddles, if you don't know what those are part of the rhythm meetings that we talk about, and many of our members swear by those. Put it into their to-do list daily, to go into LinkedIn, to like the firm's most recent post. You can code this into the Carbons, the Centers, the Pixies. You could even code in a weekly or daily business development workflow for your team to follow. It doesn't need to be hard, but make it really visible what they need to do. And you've got to carry on talking about it, because if you stop talking about it, your team will go back to what they've always done. The more you talk about and the more you visibly support your team to play their part in business development, the more the team will get involved. But also use your team meetings to train people up. We have a weekly hour where I work with my growth specialist team and we share knowledge. We help train each other on key stuff. We get stuff out of my brain. We share tips and tricks. We use that hour every week as training time. And your team need to be trained. They don't magically pick this business development stuff up. So do a little bit of business development training each week. It could be as simple as the right way to answer a phone. Remember, start small. Or it could be practicing a sales conversation or pre-qualifying a prospect. We've got some great scripts within the membership site that people can use, to do that. And here's a little simple process to follow. Get them to shadow you doing a business development activity. And that's both the pre-work, the post-work, and doing the work. Then once you've done it, get them to debrief and ask questions after the activity, such as what helped progress the meeting or conversation? What helped you identify work opportunities? What hindered you from winning work? Get them to say, you're a journalist, now debrief me. Then together create checklists and scripts so they can replicate what you just did. Then the next time that opportunity comes up, you be in the room with them, but supervise them doing the activity. Then do the same debrief with them. What opportunities were there for work? Did they spot all of them? What helped progress the conversation? What helped them identify work? So do this stuff. And then, supervise for as long as you need to. And then when you think they're ready, get them to do that activity unsupervised and go through the same debrief. But we often don't do this. We don't take this opportunity. And I know, Yasmin, you've been great, coming in and wanting to learn, and we're learning from you as well. And we've got a learning culture within our team that we will regularly sit with each other, both from a quality standard and to learn from each other. How do you do that? What are you doing that for? And it's not just business development in our team. So what marketing can you easily outsource? Because this is another way of putting it on autopilot. So here are some of the tactics that you can outsource. SEO, pay-per-click. Use a professional at these. Otherwise, you might as well just take some £20 notes and burn them. Facebook ads. Actually, Facebook ads are quite good for starting to build up a list. Maybe we actually ran a pilot to test Facebook ads. We found that they weren't that effective, but actually in the hands of maybe a professional doing it and using it as part of a funnel, it could work quite well. Some of our members use lead generation sites such as Vouch4 or Bark. Now, with all of these, you've got to be very quick to respond when the lead comes through. But some of our members, particularly we've got one member that gets a lot of work from Vouch4. But often the quality that comes out of these sites can be questionable. Content marketing, within the club, we're running a pilot at the moment doing, I think, is it Yasmin, 3 or 4 members, content marketing. So they're writing their blogs for them. Doing their social media updates, supporting them with that. You can outsource that. And if those pilot goes well, we will be expanding that significantly over the next year to the rest of our members. But also social media. It's part of our, we do some social media for some of our members, which is part of that pilot. So these are all things that can be outsourced. Remember, you don't have to do it yourself. So summary. Whew. Feels like a little bit of a gallop, a little bit of a lot of stuff. So I think really what I want to say is, remember that if you've got to put your marketing on autopilot, the easiest thing to do is deliver a great client service, because that's your best route. I remember one former member of the club, and he didn't want to grow big, which is why he eventually left. And he worked really hard to get his first client. He then gave that first client lots and lots of love. And that first client just happened to have 4 more companies. So that first client came 5. And he carried on, and he just gently went from 1 to 5 to 10 by delivering that great client service. Now, what he'd done was very good at focusing on who he wanted through the door in the first place. But actually put management time to ensure that every single day your clients get a great client service, that they're hearing from you, they see you as a key part of their team, that you're very visible, and this will naturally help you develop lots of client referrals. Now, remember that you don't have to do the business development. If you're not doing it, somebody else needs to do it. So how can you help your team to see it's part of their day job, to put in processes to make it easy for them to spot work opportunities, to show your team how your firm wins work? Because the reality is we're not trained on this stuff. We're really not trained on this stuff. So why would our team know this stuff? And then identify what marketing activities can be outsourced to others. Right, put in the chat box, what have been your top 3 highlights from this webinar? What have been your top 3 highlights from this webinar? Into the chat box. So Chris has said, realizing the importance of existing client. Palax talked about the emotional engagement and copy stroke ideal client team or business development. Absolutely. And Palax, we can talk about that more if you want to, just shout. Nash said about personalizing the content. Absolutely. If you're going to put this on autopilot, it's got to land correctly. Delivering good client service to get those referrals, getting the team involved in nurturing and winning work. And I think your team, Nash, are getting very involved, and it's starting to pay off. Graham has said about niche and the personalization and engaging regularly with clients. Absolutely. Dominic has go, try things. Absolutely. What is going to work? You know, leveraging client service into more work, referrals on that focus. Lisa has said processes to identify additional work, train the team and good client service. Absolutely. Now, look, if you've heard any of this stuff and you think, you know what, I think it's time to talk to them about joining the club, here's your first step. I've just put it into the chat box, a link to Yasmin, who is our business development expert, alongside with myself. There's a link to her diary for you to book just a short 15-minute call. There's absolutely no strings attached. Yeah, of course, we'd love you to join. But, you know, this is something for you to see, actually, let's go and have a chat. Let's see if we can help. And we'll let you know if we can help. I need to be very honest with you. We had a really, really good Accountex, which was back in May. So we've got one more space for a new member to join in July. Then we are in August, we won't be onboarding any new members because we will be focusing on the work we've already won, kind of walking our talk. And then with our capacity constraints, we'll only be bringing in 6 new members in September. So if you are keen to join the club between now and the end of September, I'd recommend getting a call with Yasmin now, getting yourself onto that list so that when we're ready, you're ready to join us. And Yasmin will tell you that that's the absolute honest truth. We've put a limit on how many new members we're going to bring in because we want to deliver awesome client service to our existing members. Brilliant. What questions do you have for me or do you have for Yasmin? I'm just going to put Yasmin's calendar link back into the chat box. What questions do you have for me? And while people are thinking of a question, I'll ask a question that people often answer me, which is, this is all very great, Heather, but I don't have the time to do this. How do I make the time? And I think the key question is make it real. spend a bit of time on a plan. That's one of the reasons our members do very well, is they've taken some time out and they have a plan they're working towards. Make this stuff real, get it out of your head. Otherwise, it will always be that intention. Have that plan, work on that plan, put it into your diary, make it real. Otherwise, it just never happens. And so what other questions do people have? Nash is asking, what bits of marketing should I outsource versus keep? Oh, now, given that, Nash, you are responsible for 2 businesses. So one of those is a pension audit firm, and one of those is a small business. So they are different businesses. So the first thing you've got to ask yourself is, how do I really win work? So, for example, we know in the club that we win work because of the relationships and our credibility. So, yeah, we can switch on Facebook ads, but you know what? It's really hard work with those discovery calls. Whereas now we tend to have discovery calls with warm prospects because we haven't outsourced. Yeah, we use some more marketing automation to help us identify who are those warm ones. So you look at your pension audit business, Nash, you know that that is a referral-based business. You also know that LinkedIn has really helped you by remaining top of mind. Actually, in terms of outsourcing with that business, some support to help you take the thought leadership and put it into digestible bits of marketing you could outsource, but actually the thought leadership and the relationships are very difficult to outsource because that's what that business works on. The creation of the materials from the original from the original thought leadership, yeah, you can outsource that. So when we think about a small accountancy firm, which bits small accountancy firm, in terms of coming up with content, of course you can outsource that. In fact, Nash, you do that very well in your business. What are my ideas for content? You take the ideas, you use Becky within our team to write that bit of content. If you're looking for what I would call the very small businesses, yeah, Google pay-per-click, where you're not too bothered about location, but locational based search can be a great place to play. So you've got to think about how much does the relationship really matter to do that. So somebody has asked, and I think I know who this is from, any members who own so we haven't had any members from Singapore and Southeast Asia. We had a member from Australia that we don't have anymore, but we're typically UK based, but actually 95% of what we talk about is applicable to our members in the US, our members in Canada, our members in Europe, our members in Dubai. It's pretty much a lot of it the same content. So absolutely, feel free to make any introductions that you think we could help. So Brianna's asked, what is one thing most young businesses miss the mark, and how would you personally set them on a good course? We're a small bookkeeping firm needing to market for the first time. The biggest mistake, and Yasmin, chip in the chat box or take yourself off. Let me put your camera on, Yasmin, because I know you're down as a panelist. If I make you a co-host, you can put your camera on. So jump on, Yasmin, because I think you've got a view on this. What we tend to find is with these young businesses is they're too focused on winning any type of client, so that as a result, they tend to sell themselves cheaply. They tend to get price sensitive clients who are very needy, but they just go, I've got a client, it's great. So one of the best things you can do as a young business is really work out who you want as your client. And yeah, you might be a little bit broader than somebody that's 10 years in. You might be focused on small service businesses rather than, retail businesses that are over 100, $200,000 in turnover. But, the more you can focus, the earlier, absolutely. And as Ashley said, I made that mistake, just took any and every client I could, half of them were a nightmare. It's so true.
I think that with that, it's really important that you know the value of what you're providing. And if you know that early on, if you know who you're talking to, even if that is a little bit broader, like Heather was saying, but then also knowing the value of what you are providing, and don't undersell yourself. Like, look at what possible competitors are doing, and maybe be like a little bit cheaper if you really feel like that needs to be to your advantage, but don't feel like you need to undersell yourself, because you're just going to get stressed out.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work.
And I'd actually say, when you're setting your prices in the early days, we normally set them in of, hey, I can make a good living with this price. And what we factored in is, I can make a good living because, one, I'm doing the work, and two, I'm doing it from my home office. Actually, in your pricing, factor in, how can I make some money on this if somebody else does the work? Now, it's your choice whether somebody else does the work, but actually that pricing from day one makes you far more scalable, because Yasmin's been now working alongside our members for 3 months-ish. And what's your number one topic of conversation with new members?
Pricing, always pricing.
pricing, get a bit more pricing. And this is because people have made that mistake, Brianne, that they've kind of gone, hey, I can undercut the market, go in cheap and make a killing. And then you discover why people have priced at a certain price, because it takes money to bring other people in. And if there just isn't that margin, you end up having to do a huge amount of work yourself to make the business profitable. So absolutely. Thanks, Graham. It's good to know that, it's amazing how you wish somebody told you that when you started, because this is what we have to unpick every single day in the club. And as I said to Dan and Yasmin when they first joined us, you will become experts on pricing, the amount of conversations you have on pricing. Right. I think it's time for me to get a drink, isn't it? And that'll be a drink of water, just in case anybody's thinking it's a gin and tonic with ice. If I did, it would be an alcohol-free gin and tonic. But I'll take one more question. If not, let's see. Brianna said, pricing is tricky since most of our clients have varying income each month. Thank you for the great advice. And Brianne, you really want to be thinking about some kind of fixed fee level of pricing based on a number of transactions. And of course that varies, whatever, but you want to kind of get it roughly average out, particularly if you've got seasonal businesses, and you may, if you've got seasonal businesses, need to agree a sort of pricing in the peak season and pricing in the low season. That normally, and as Graham said, and Graham, I hope this doesn't sound rude, but has been there and around the block a few times and learned a few lessons. And he said, based on transactions, absolutely. Lenny, it is going to be late for you. So absolutely great to have you with us. Thank you for giving up some of your evening to be there. I hope that was useful for you. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you soon. And as I said, if you're interested about joining the club, I'm just going to answer this question. Pricing, we use government stats, no mystery. What do small businesses pay for accounting? 8% of gross sale. You know what, Arlene, I'd never use government stats, because that's always an average. I would always go on, what is it that I need to do to make a decent living? Now, that's not profiteering. It's actually, what do I value my worth? Thank you very much, Dominic. And as I said, if you want to grab 15 minutes with Yasmin, maybe want to talk to her about your marketing, your growth plans, your early stage stuff, we'd love to talk to you. So thank you very much, everyone. And goodbye from me and goodbye from her, I think the word is. Araj, I'm glad you like that. Right. Stop share and stop the webinar.